Hey, good day. My name is Anthony Pata. Before we proceed to our topic, let's have some trivia about Vietnam. If you have a chance to visit Vietnam with natural treasures, amazing cuisine, surprises to discover, spending some time exploring from yourself the beauty from the furthest north and the furthest south of his generous country will leave you many unforgettable memories. Let's learn some interesting and even the weird facts about Vietnam, including how fascinating the country was getting through the war over the 50 years. So are you ready? Let's start! The trivia about Vietnam is that most people come from all over the world usually address Vietnam as an S-shaped nation. Due to its figure location on the map, Vietnam borders are widening from the north to the south like the letter S in alphabet. And you know what? Vietnam is the world's second largest coffee exporter. According for 10.5% of the world coffee export, Vietnam annual crops export the value at USD 3.2 billion. Vietnam's coffee is considered to be one of the best havens for coffee lovers coming to enjoy the unique taste which nowhere else in the world but Vietnam can bring out. In addition, Vietnam has a high level of biodiversity. 3/4 of Vietnam land area are highlands and mountains, covered by a number of green tropical rainforests that are home to thousands of species of fauna and flora. Wait, there's more. You know what? The people of Vietnam are drinking snake wine? Yes, you heard right. Drinking snake wine is a sign of vitality. Snake wine is the alcohol beverage made by the putting whole snake and herbs into rice wine for a long time to enhance the flavor. It is a remedy in traditional Vietnamese medicine. It is said that those kinds of species have a therapeutic and invigorating substances which can help to cure back pain and rheumatism, muscular, joint, various tissues pain. However, it is strong and contains a few poisonous substances that can be bad for people who are allergic to alcohol, have a sensitive stomach, and high blood pressure, so it should only consume in a small amount. And now, let's talk about the 5 famous authors in Vietnam, including their work. So are you ready? Let's get started. Ngu Xuan Du was born on February 2, 1916 and died December 18, 1985. Was a Vietnamese poet, journalist, short story writer, and literary critic, best known as one of the prominent features of the 21st century. Toi Moi or New Poetry movement, heralded by the critics the newest of the poets. Xuan Du rose the popular with the collection of Tutu 1983, which demonstrates distinct voice influenced by Western literature, notably of French symbolism. He was one of the first to employ a Western poetic device like enjambment in Vietnam poetry, while occasionally adhering to the traditional form like Luk Bat between 1986 and 1944. His poetry was characterized by the desperation for love, juxtaposed just to desire to live to experience the beauty of the world. After joining the Vietnam's Communist Party in 1945, the themes of the works shifted toward the party and their resonance against the French and the Americans. When he died in 1985, he left behind about 450 poems, as well as several short stories, essays, and literary criticism. Although his love poems use expressions and pronouns that are more commonly associated with a heterosexual relationship, Xuan Du was confirmed by many, including his close friends, to be gay. According to the writer Tu Hai, his homosexuality was known among his fellow soldiers during the time in the revolutionary base, which had to same point to lead admonishment from the military. To this day, the impact of his sexual orientation on his poetry remains a topic of discussion. The writing style of Xuan Du, along with the French influence on his poetry, is best exemplified in collection of Tutu 1938. The title of the collection itself is hard to be translated, for the second word tu can mean both poetry or young, giving rise to the two possible interpretations, either a young poetry or a poetic poetry. Both interpretations fit with the general ideas of the collection, which praises youth and glory of life through a combination of symbolic imagery and multiple poetic devices. As an often cited script that reflect these ideas come from the poem Iyo. The meaning of Iyo is love. The opening line was inspired by the equivalent in Edmond Hierarchus, Rondel di I'll lead you, Parter just Moror yon pew. At the same time, the overall statement of their four lines in shared by other poems and collection, which express the speaker pessimism with regards to love, along with his fear and disappointment in the poem Byung Vang or In Haste, which is currently included in the Vietnam's high school curriculum. Suan Du has also described an obsession with the passage of the time, the essential breed and nature does not prolong with the youth of mankind. These feelings have been attributed by the same recent writers to him in grappling with sexual orientation. But whatever the case might be, the fear and obsession are all in according to the speakers eventually yearning and intimacy and the decision rival against the brevity of life. In his foreword to the Ji Hong Chug Ji, or the casting fragrance of the wind 1945. In their analysis, critics Hoi Tan and Hoi Chan viewed that the love lines verse of Suan Du was emblematic of the Vietnamese youth at the time, who were just being exposed to an immense world and consequently the dearness of the universe and the tragedy of human fate. In the face of this empathy, the youthful man chose to clinging to love and reject everything, such in the idea and also runs through Thin Thai or a male love, a poem in race and relationship between the Paul Verlaine and Arthur Rimbaud, the tense of the difference as proof Suan Du's homosexuality. After the August Revolutionary in 1945, these statements are less noticeable his verse, which then he shifted toward the praising struggles and the people of Ho Chi Minh's independence movement. Like many other intellectuals of his time, including Chuan Chan, Li Chu, and Nhu Huy Tuong, he was described to have been enlightened or jiak ngo and graced with a new purpose to live. He was involved with early years to both Vietnamese writer associated with the Journalist Association and his writing after the First Indochina War. The second author named Dang Tan. Mr. Dang Tan is a bilingual poet, fiction writer, essayist, and critic. Based in Vietnam, there he is regarded the typical feature of post-Doi Moi literature and considered the best humorist ever, and even an awesomely brilliant genius. Unfortunately, it was repeatedly said that leading governmental departments in Vietnam instructed the state-controlled literary cycles his work were harmful. From 2008 up to 2011 and from 2014 up to present, all publishing houses there had not been allowed to print any book of his for no righteous reason. An officially state-run newspaper had been ordered to leave him in the dark. Doi Moi is the name given the economic reforms initiated in Vietnam in 1986, with the goal creating a socialist-oriented market economy. The term Doi Moi itself is a general term with a wide use in the Vietnamese language meaning innovate or renovate. However, Doi Moi policy refers specifically to those reforms that sought the transition Vietnam from the command economy to a socialist-oriented market economy. The third author named Nguyen Ngoc Ngan. Nguyen Ngoc Ngan, he was born in Son Tay, Vietnam, but his family moved to South Vietnam when the Geneva Accords divided Vietnam in 1954. After university and service in the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, Ngan was imprisoned by the victorious communists after the fall of Saigon in 1975 and did force a labor and a re-education camp until 1978, an experience described in his autobiography, The Wheel of Heaven. After his release, Ngan escaped by a boat to Malaysia in 1979. During the closing stages in the journey, a storm hits the boat and knocked it over with the sight of land. Ngan's wife and child drowned, and he was pulled unconscious from the water. He was sponsored by the Canadian government and brought to Vancouver in 1980, moving to Prince Rupert, British Columbia in 1985 to Toronto. Ngan is known for co-hosting Thangas Paris by Night with Vietnamese personality Cai Duyen. He co-authored Ballad of Mulan and The Blind Man in Triple, Orchard Village. The fourth author named Bao Ni. Hoang Ao Pong, also known by the pen name Bao Ni, was born on 18th day of October 1952. He is a Vietnamese novelist, essayist, and writer of a short story. Best known of his first novel published in English as The Sorrow of War. The Sorrow of War. The Sorrow of War, written in the stream of consciousness style, open with the depiction of soldiers of a post-war mission to collect the bones of fallen comrades for burial. This begins with non-linear narrative by Ken, a North Vietnamese soldier during the Vietnam War, chronicling his loss of innocence, his love, and his anguish at the memories of war. Ken rides in the truck searching for the remains of fallen soldier in what he imagined as the jungle of screaming souls, and recalls that this is where the 27th Battalion was obliterated except for the handful survivor. His flashback tie the novel together. The theme of this flashback centers around the love between Ken and his childhood sweetheart named Pong. Ken writes a novel about it, then tries to burn it. A mute girl who Ken sees when drunk, to whom he pours out his thought, obtained the text after his departure. Ken, in the book, reflects on his experiences on the many unacknowledged sacrifices, such as Hua giving her life to save Ken and his commandrates from American soldiers, an act of immorality and disintegration, such as the objectification and treatment of a dead woman in the airport. The novel climaxes with Ken's reflection on his first personal kill, which occurred after he witnessed Bong's rape. The novel ends with the passage by a new narrator who explained that he received Ken's novel from the mute girl. And last but not the least, the fifth author named Nguyen Du. Nguyen Du was born the 3rd day of January 1766 and died on September 16, 1820. He is Vietnamese poet. He is the most known for writing the epic poem The Tale of Q. The Tale of Q composed 3,254 verses written in Lukbat, or a 6/8 meter. The poem recounts the life, trials, and tribulation by Tai Q, a beautiful and talented young woman who has to sacrifice herself to save her family, to save her father and young brother from prison. She sells herself into a marriage with a middle-aged man, not knowing that he is a pimp, and he pours into a prostitution. While modern interpretations vary, some post-colonial writers have interpreted as a critical allegorical reflection on the race of the Nguyen dynasty.